It's Tuesday, isn't it?
Hey everyone, it's me and Weezus.
Hey guys, what's good?
Today, we're going to talk about the notorious Billy the Kid.
Not
Where do
just
we-
anyone, a local hero.
Well, I mean, some people call him a hero, and then other people call him a murderer. Other people call him a murderer, so I guess it just...
The
It
New
depends.
Mexican in you came out real quick, bro.
I know,
You're
the peoples
you're
over here, they be calling him a hero.
saying you were all evil, eh? No,
Stupid. Oh, man. Okay, so who is Billy the Kid? His name was actually Henry McCarty. That's how I say it. I don't know if that's how everyone else says his last name, but that's how I'm going to say it.
it's like McCarthy. There's no H. Oh, I'm sorry.
There's no H. Well, and I couldn't even find like a date of birth for him, right? They said September 17th or November 23rd,
He
1859.
might have existed during these times, maybe.
Yeah, we think he was born sometime between September 17th and November 23rd, 1859. It's either one of those days, though, is what they say on the internet. So there's no saying. I don't know. This could be inaccurate facts, but that is what Wikipedia said when I looked it up. So
We gonna roll with it. We gonna roll with it. Fuck it.
yeah. So I kind of want to start with, I found like some timeline events of his life started, just in general, how he became to be who he is, right? And I would like to apologize in advance. I just got over the flu, so my voice probably sound all stuffy. And I'm going to try and mute the mic every time I cough, but I might miss a few guys because your girl's got bronchitis, so we got to be careful. But
Miranda, you're lucky, dude. You're lucky we're not recording together because I would have been throwing grapes in your mouth every time you cough. Just to me.
I thought about coughing and my body couldn't handle it, dude. It was like, cough, dude, let it out. Yeah. Okay, so let's start back in the year, 18. I keep wanting to say 19. It's 1859 to 1863-ish. All right, so we're gonna start there at the beginning. Ooh. Billy the Kid. He was born to Patrick McCarty. That was his dad, and Catherine Devine. I'm not sure. His father died when he was 4 years old, so he was left fatherless. Right. Welcome to the club. I'm just kidding. I have dads. I was just joking.
I'm like, wait, I'm gonna call up Steve and be like, hey, yo.
No, I'm just kidding.
I
got my.
Tell her you ain't giving me crap for Christmas. No, I'm just kidding.
Right. He already got me a jacket. So what is he gonna do? Drive here and take it so I can get cold?
He would call me, bro. He'd be like, Jesus, do your thing. I'll be like, I got you.
All right, dude. Miranda won't eat again.
Miranda won't eat again. I'll force her to drink water, Steven. Don't worry. No, I'm just kidding.
Anyways, okay. So June 18th, 1868, Billy's mom, which was Catherine McCarty at the time, appeared in a census in Anderson, Indiana. So at that time, they're located in Indiana, right?
Yes.
With Billy the Kid, William Henry, and Joseph, his brother. Then she went on to meet her new husband at the time, whose name just happened to be William. And then we flash forward 2 years later, the kids and the mom relocate. They move from Indiana to Kansas. They go to Wichita, Kansas. So I literally have the whole timeline of before his crimes, bro. So I'm going to go through it all. August 1871 to 1872, they moved again. Billy's family moves again because his mom got diagnosed with tuberculosis. They just wanted to move to like a drier climate, extend her life a little, help her out.
Well,
but they ended up...
Something about that. They said that the drier climate over here in New Mexico would cure her tuberculosis, right? Is that what you said?
They didn't really know much about it back then, right? So when I'm pretty sure tuberculosis like affects your lungs and stuff. So when you're in a moist climate, like when you're sick and you take a hot shower to like steam out all the stuff, if you're living in some humid climate and like that shit's happening all day long, like it's not good for you.
How do I say? One of the YouTubers I watch is like dope as usual.
Yeah.
He said he got mold behind his eyes. But because in his old house they didn't have air conditioning, so he had a swamp cooler, and he would put his face in front of the swamp cooler, and the moisture started to build up behind his eyes. Yeah. He started growing old.
Yuck, dude.
That's like the same circumstance now, right? It is just a moist environment. Her lungs probably were starting to mold.
Well, and then when you like cough so much, like even me right now having like bronchitis, the more I cough, like the more I need to continue coughing. So it's like you have to restrain yourself from doing it because then you start to get all this inflammation even worse. Yeah. Anyway, so I'm pretty sure that's why. That's not a scientific fact, but that would be the only thing that would make sense, right?
Yeah. I mean, it it didn't help her. No.
Right, nothing helps, dude. Like once you have a disease, like moving to a new climate is not going to cure a disease. Like that's just, I don't know, whatever. Anyways, so in October of 1872, the family ended up living in Denver, Colorado, which, I mean, it can be dry, but then you still have like wet season, you know, so interesting. By March 1st, 1873, Catherine and William made it official. They got married in Santa Fe, New Mexico. So this is where our home state, you know, comes into play, is because a lot of these crimes happened where we're from. So they had already been with each other for 5 years at this point. But at this point, they've already moved the kids, Billy and Joseph, four times. Sorry, they've already moved them 4 times. And they're kids, you know, they're young.
Yeah.
So then they call them at this point the Antrim family because Catherine's remarried. That's her new last name. They moved to Silver City, New Mexico. That's the 5th move of Billy and Joseph's life, right? And that's a lot of moves for a kid. In today's day, it would be a lot. So imagine back then, dude, you can't even settle down.
You can't even they don't even have a house or anything. They're probably just living in a farm or, you know.
Yeah, like what do you even do? Like they don't even have tents. You can't just like put some metal rods or things. Like you don't even have that. You're just living off the land, right?
Yeah, living off the land, or hopefully, you know, someone built a shelter and it's just abandoned. You're just like, fuck it, it's my house now.
Yeah, it's my house, dude. So September 16th, 1874, Catherine, Billy's mom, finally dies of her disease, right? At this point, Billy and his brother, right, boop dead. Boop dead, dude.
Boop dead.
This leaves Billy and Joseph at this point. It leaves them with their stepdad because their mom dies, right? Then their stepdad is like, fuck this shit, I'm out. He leaves and moves to Arizona, leaves these kids behind.
He was
and
like,
they're young.
Dad, bro. He pulled up a modern dad. He was like, you want me to raise 2 kids that aren't even mine? No,
That's exactly what he did. And he just bounced and he just left him.
And then he was like, you know what? Your mom ain't even alive. I'll catch you guys later. And then he's like, I'm gonna go get some milk, and never came back.
That is exactly what happened, dude. And he moved. He moved to Clifton, Arizona.
He's like, they'll never find me here.
I've never even heard of Clifton, Arizona, so that's the last place I would check out. So when he leaves, this leaves both boys to live in foster care. In foster care back then, like there was no system, you know. It's way worse than what like modern standards are for foster care now. We all think modern foster care is, you know, the system's a piece of shit. Back then, it's 10 times worse. So within the first year of being in foster care, this is where Billy the Kid's crime streak started, right? He just wasn't doing well. His first arrest was September 23rd, 1875, and he got arrested for stealing laundry. This was his first interaction with the law, right? So this is his first big thing. This is going to be a long timeline, so I apologize, but it's good to know all these facts, right? So September 25th, 1875, 2 days after his arrest, he escapes jail, dude, and flees New Mexico. He goes to Clifton, Arizona, where his stepdad is, to seek refuge from him and like ask for help. And he's like, yo, I escaped, help me out. But he gets rejected. The stepdad's like, get the fuck out of here. You're not my son. You're on your own.
He's like, you're not my dad. No.
That's literally what happened. And he's like, please help me. Like, I'm back. So this puts Billy the Kid on his own completely. So I don't even know how old he is at this time. Like, he's a young kid, what, 15, 16, right?
14,
and he's
15.
just, yeah, he's just a kid. And he's on his own. So at this point, he's kind of like, there's no timeline from that time that he's on his own. I don't know what happens in that time. But up until April 1876, so it's just, 5-6 months, it shows that he actually takes a job as a cook at this hotel. He meets a horse thief there named John Mackey. Mackey takes Billy the Kid under his wing, shows him how to make money stealing horses, right? This lifestyle is cool because Billy's a young kid and he's like, I've moved all over the Wild West and lived in poverty and now I'm going to be freaking rich because I'm stealing horses. Like, this is sick, right? So
I finally got money for non-powdered milk. Let's go.
Right, exactly, dude. So, I mean, and I don't blame him because if I was living in poverty and my parents were horse and buggying me around the Wild West, dude, and some guy was like, look, you can be rich. All you got to do is help us steal these horses. I'd be like, I mean, cool, dude. Like, I might do that now, right? Like,
tell me, Miranda, with that, like, you're insinuating basically if at that time they were selling drugs, that you would sell drugs to get out of poverty.
I mean, I'm not gonna say that you're wrong, but like, are you telling me?
I would do it too, but just because we have a different kind of how do I say it? Just because where we come from.
Yeah, maybe it's because he's from New Mexico now, dude. His New Mexico side came out, right? So maybe like he came up poor and he lived in New Mexico and like that. You're gonna tell me right now if me and you became homeless and it was just me, you, and the dogs on the streets, and some guy came and was like, "Yo, I know you guys can't work and shit because we're living in the Wild West. The apocalypse has happened, but you want to help me steal horses? We'll be rich. We'll be outlaws." And we're gonna be cool. You're gonna be like, no, thank you. I would rather stay in the grass over here. No, you wouldn't. You're stealing the horses, bro.
Quick to turn on the group, bro. No, I just get
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't turn on the crew. I would be like, if my crew can come, I'm not
I turn
gonna
on.
leave.
No,
I would even my bearded dragon would be part of the gang, dude. I wouldn't leave a single soul behind. Everyone would be out for themselves. Like I would carry my bearded dragon, but my cats and my dogs, they would follow us. The dogs would, at least the cats. Edward would get spooked. He'd be a goner. We might need to just eat him to survive. I don't know, but
Instead
anyway.
of him, like he would find his way, bro. His predator instincts would kick in eventually.
Yeah, his predator instincks would kick in. He would be able to kill small things. Like Meow Meow, she would probably follow us. She'd be like, well, my mom's going this way, so I'm following them. Edward would be like, the second he got out in the wide open, dude. After he got hit by that car, he's never been the same. Okay, so anyways, back to the story. So then there's like a year window of missing timeline that like it's probably out there somewhere, but it's just not part of the research I did. So March 25th, 1877 comes around. The horse thief duo is what we're going to call them, right? They get arrested. They get put in jail at Fort Grant. Guess what Billy does?
Hey, Moran, I got you on that missing year, though.
Okay, you do?
You jumped to 77. I got something on 76.
Okay, hit me with it.
He was hired by a local rancher, Henry Hooker, which was his first boss, or second boss, technically. And basically taught him to pearl cows, do all the cattle shit, be a vaquero, a cowboy.
Yeah. And that was in 76?
That was in 76, yeah.
Okay. So that's after or around the time he meets this John Mackey guy who's like, let's steal horses, bro. Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, it fits in. He knew how to herd cattle and all that shit. He knew how to steal a horse or how to ride a horse. So he's like, okay, let's get you, man. You know your thing.
So we'll go to 77. You what? Sorry.
He's like, do your thing, 21. No,
God damn it. I want to listen to that song now. Okay, so 1877, March. So March 25th, 1877. So the horse thief duo is arrested and put in jail. What does Billy do? Guess.
He dips. He's like.
Yeah, he escapes, dude. Again, the same day. The same day. He escapes prison. And this is where his reputation, as an escape artist comes into play. Because he's already escaped once, right? He escaped when he was for his first ever crime when he went to jail. So August 1877 comes around. He's still in Fort Grant. He kills his first man at this point. That we know of. His name was Frank Windy Cahill, a bully who attacked Billy the Kid during an argument. At this point, Billy the Kid leaves Arizona, heads back to New Mexico. So a month later, this is when Billy the Kid joins Jesse Evans, the leader of what we call the Boys. And it's just basically a gang of killers and
what they're called, Brenda?
Outlaws, dude.
What's called that? You know what the gang? They were called Ruthless.
Were they really? It's like, this is where Ruthless Records started.
A strong feeling, bro, that they probably did like get something from that. They're outlaws and shit. They're like, damn, ruthless. They were ruthless.
Yeah, they has to be, dude. So October to November 1887, the gang rides into Lincoln County. After they get there, Billy the Kid, he has a falling out with this gang and is hired by John Tunstall. At this period in time, Tunstall was involved in a huge feud with the Dolan Company, which in the end turns into like a bloodbath, right?
Yeah.
So February 18th through 23rd of 78, this is a couple months later, Billy the Kid rides along this Tunstall guy with all his men herding horses, right, to Lincoln. This group at the time, his little gang, they get ambushed by Dolan and Sheriff Brady. Sheriff Brady, he'll come into play more. His men, right? Tunstall is killed at this time. Billy the Kid and the others Guess. Escape, right? Okay, of course, because Billy escapes everything.
Because I feel like back then the law wasn't trained. They were just like, the local, like the biggest guy they got there. Hey, you're the sheriff now. It's like, oh
Yeah.
man.
Yep. Well, so then the following day comes around. 3 of Tunstall's men, which included Billy the Kid, by the way, they tried to serve warrants on the guys who killed Tunstall. They were arrested, and they ended up having to miss Tunstall's funeral because they got arrested. They were set to be released from jail at this point on the 23rd of February. So this was on the 18th, right? Then we go a couple days later. Dick Brewer, Tunstall's foreman, I'm reading this one directly because it's a lot of confusing stuff, is appointed constable to bring in Tunstall's murderers. Billy the Kid and several other people are deputized. They ended up calling themselves at this point the Regulators. All right, so they were cheesy back then. They just came up with these names. Like, imagine me and you, we're in preschool and we like start laying down the law. And we're like, we're the Regulators, bro. Like that's how they were back then. Okay, and
Starts playing,
yeah, that's exactly what it was like. So March 6th, 1878, the Regulators, I don't even want to say it, they make arrest, they arrest Bill Morton and Frank Baker. March 9th, 1878, they believed their prisoners would be released as soon as they were turned over to the sheriff. So they decided to take matters into their own hands, right? Because they didn't want these guys to just go free.
They were dip as soon as they got in jail. They would be like, "All right, guys, you guys are in here for life." And so as soon as they get in, they're like, "All right, you guys can get out."
Yep. Well, that's exactly what they thought was gonna happen. That they were gonna be like, "Oh, here's these guys. We arrested them," But like, is the sheriff really gonna listen to like a group of outlaws and who were trying to be vigilantes?
Like
You know what I mean?
It's like that one movie. Yeah, crap. Where he's like, let me go right now, man. I go to Mexico. You say you kill me, and you can tell the world you killed me, and we both disappear, right? We both go our own way. But how do I say that? In that moment, that other guy probably thought, I'm gonna take justice into my own hands, like how they're saying,
Yeah.
fuck the justice system.
That's exactly what they did. They were like, fuck the justice system. We know the minute we hand these guys over, they're just going to release them because who cares about a group of outlaws, right? When these guys are getting paid off by the people who put us in this situation, right? So the Regulators, they believe that. They're like, we're not handing these guys over. So they take matters into their own hands. So Morton, Baker, and then this other guy named William McCloskey, a guy that the Regulators thought was just a traitor, are all killed, right? So they never even hand them over to the police. They just straight
murdered them.
Off them, dude. Mm-hmm. Anyways, April 1st, 1878, members of the Regulators. Here's some names, right? Frank McNabb, Jim French, Fred Waite, John Middleton, Henry Brown, and Billy the motherfucking Kid. Ambush the sheriff and his deputies, bro. They just go after the police.
They gunned them down, bro.
Yeah, so Sheriff Brady, who I was talking about earlier, and his deputy, George Hinman, boop, dead. They're goners. They just take them out.
How do I say there's a part where they're talking about this, because where Billy escapes jail, basically.
Yeah.
And then basically saying that his crew was there to help him out, and that he found Brady's gun, basically a shotgun. And when the deputy and his people were rolling up, he was like, "Hey, Brady," and then basically shot him. He basically said, like, "Hey, I killed you." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's me. Like the guy that literally you just it's like the guy you just escaped, literally just captured. I escaped and murdered you, man.
That's wild, bro. Shit back then, like there wasn't. Imagine if there was social media back then. Billy the Kid all on Twitter, like, "Yo, Sheriff Brady, if you don't come out here right now, Sheriff Brady's a bitch." So they had to go find each other and like kill each other.
The chief of police would be like, "We have to find Billy. He's a menace to society."
Yeah.
And he's a dangerous.
Okay, April 4th, 1878. Buckshot Roberts is killed. Imagine naming your kid Buckshot. Okay, I mean, I'm sure it's a nickname, but still. Okay, Buckshot Roberts is killed at Blazer's Mill. I'm reading this because this is where all the names are going to start confusing me a lot, and I can't remember the story. Not before wounding Frank Coe and John Middleton and killing Dick Brewer. Okay, so April 18th, 1878, Billy the Kid, Middleton, and Brown are indicted for the murder of Sheriff Brady. So they know they did it, right? This would be the criminal act that sticks with Billy the Kid through the rest of his life. So this is where he really becomes like a wanted man, is because he killed a sheriff, right?
The weird part, Miranda, what we're talking about right now,
Yeah.
because I saw a bunch of videos, right? And exactly what we're talking about right now is like the split of where, you know, people think, oh, he was evil, he was good, right?
Yeah.
This is literally the his nexus of it. No, I just can't.
Well,
on one side, they say you know the reason he killed Brady was because he killed his like first employer, right? The first person that showed him, like, basically like he was a human, not just a worker or just a, you know, just a scumbag from the streets.
Yeah.
And that the Brady and them, you know, they're corrupt. They were corrupt sheriffs. You know, all the videos you can find, they were saying how corrupt the government used to be in New Mexico. Still is. No, just,
yeah, still is though, for real.
They basically were saying that the sheriffs, you know, they were just terrorizing the people. They were trying to get land from people too. You know, they're just being menaces because they had the power. They were the sheriffs.
Yeah.
And when this guy, you know, the how do I say what his name? Something Hooker. When he died, and they didn't just kill him, they killed his horse. Apart from that, that's when Billy, you know, like, oh, I'm gonna take revenge. I'm gonna, you know, this was basically his dad, his only parental figure he had in his life.
Yeah.
And then that's why the reason he killed Brady, because he killed his other homie. But, you know, is revenge always the good way to go? No.
So one of the things that I had seen was, it was kind of like the same thing that you were saying. Is like some people thought he was good and some people thought he was evil, right? And other people thought, like, you know, people who actually knew Billy the Kid personally, they never had a bad thing to say about him. Like, people who were friends with him, they said he's funny, he's cool, he's a ladies' man, and he doesn't just kill people to kill people. Like, he always has like a justified reason. And like, I'm not out here defending murder, but I'm just saying, like, he was killing. But some people are saying, like, he only killed like the bad guys, you know. He wasn't just out here like seeing some random man and being like, ooh, he's dead, you know, like some people make him out to be. So I guess who knows. So
it's like it's one of those things where it's like you believe what you want to believe.
Yeah, everyone will make their own opinion about him. So we'll just see. Everyone's, I guess, the jury's out, you know. Okay, so July 4th, 1878, the regulators, they hide out at Chisholm's Ranch. That must be important for later. July 15th through 19th, this is still in 78, the 5-day battle at Alex McSween's home in Lincoln starts. On the 19th, while trying to escape, Alex McSween, Francisco Zamora, and Harvey Morris are all killed. They're all on Dolan's side. I might have told that part wrong. Okay. So Francisco Zamora and Harvey Morris are killed. On the Dolan side, okay, yeah. So they're killed. On the Dolan side, Robert Beckwith is killed. So the other two aren't on Dolan's side. That's why I got confused, because I was like, wait, were they on Dolan's side or were they not? But no, they weren't. Billy the Kid and the regulators, what do? Escape, like always. So they've escaped at this point. And then we go like a week or two in the future, right? This isn't in August now. Billy the Kid is blamed for the murder of a guy named Morris Bernstein. Although it wasn't Billy who pulled the trigger. The shooter was actually, I don't even know how to say it, Atanasio, something weird like that, Martinez. He was said that it was like an act of self-defense, but Billy's getting blamed for the murder, right? So then we flash forward to another month later. This guy named Lew Wallace becomes the governor. He becomes a key figure in Billy's life. So he's got a big part coming up. Like, he plays a big role. So October of 78, dude, this guy had a crazy life, because like every month he did something crazy in 87, dude.
And
so
you're like 16, 17 at this point.
Yeah, he's young, dude. He's young. Billy the Kid moved from Lincoln County War, and he's now in Texas. So he's left New Mexico at this point. While he's in Texas, he becomes good friends with this young guy. He's a doctor, and his name is Henry Hoyt. He gives Hoyt Sheriff Brady's horse in exchange for a cool watch at this point. So then the next month, we've got November, 78, not 87, 78. Governor Wallace issues amnesty, right, for all the parties involved in the Lincoln County War. So he's like, you're good to go. You're fine. Just go back, whatever. So Billy returns to Lincoln County to make peace with all of his enemies at this point. Everyone pretends that they're on good terms. Everyone's like, all right, it's a truce. We get it.
He didn't just kill my husband. Like, I mean.
Yeah, he goes back, and then everyone's like, okay, yeah, like it's better to be on a truce than anything, right? So a couple months go in between, and we go to February 18th, 1879. Billy the Kid meets up with Jesse Evans in Lincoln County. He's trying to propose like a truce here at this point. So they like form a peace treaty and forget all the shit that happens is what they agree on. Probably in other words. They probably didn't say it like that, but you know. Later that evening, the party of men comes across Susan McSween's attorney, Houston Chapman. While Billy the Kid stood by watching, Evans and his men harass and shoot this attorney, right? So they kill this guy. Billy just stood by and watched. So in response to the shooting, Billy the Kid ends up writing the governor, Governor Wallace, a letter saying that he'll testify against Chapman's killers. He'll go to court and say that he knows who did it. So that, at the time, that breaks that peace treaty that he has with Evans and Dolan, right? So things are going to, basically all hell's going to break loose because he's like, he just shook hands and agreed for a peace treaty, and now he's like, actually, I don't like what you did, so I'm going to tell on you, right? So the governor gets this letter and says, all right, well, I'm willing to meet with you and discuss the terms, see what we can do. Billy the Kid closes the letter off by saying, if you can trust Jesse Evans, you can trust me. That's how he signs off. And then it's like, Billy the Kid. Boom. So Billy the Kid and the governor meet, and they make an arrangement. Everything's all set in stone. If Billy the Kid submits to a fake arrest, right? So they want him to like be arrested and pretend that he's getting arrested so that he can testify. And then he goes to court and testifies against Dolan, Evans, and then Colonel Dudley. Then they'll pardon him of all his crimes. That's what they agree to. So they're like, yo, hear us out. You do us the solid. You're free. You're free to go. We will pretend that you've never murdered anyone or committed any crimes or done anything. We'll just let you go. So they give him his fake arrest, and they bring him in to Lincoln to testify. April 14th comes around. Billy does what he agrees to do. Like, he goes in, he testifies in court against Chapman's murderers and against Colonel Dudley, which is important, and his involvement to like siege McSween, that's his name, to siege his house, right? After 3 months, the governor did not issue a warrant, and Billy was scheduled for trial. So he didn't let him out. He lied. He was like, you do this, we're going to let you go. He fucking lied. So he still makes him go in there and testify against these people. So now he's not only a snitch, he's got a death, sentence out for him because you know what happens to snitches in prison, bro. Like, same thing back then. You don't snitch.
I don't think that worked. It was back then, Miranda.
It has to be, dude.
The prison back then was literally the jailhouse.
Yeah, but I'm still saying you're still going to get killed. You snitch on snitch. Like, you a snitch, you're getting stitches, bro.
Damn.
Where do you think that came from?
I mean, probably from more modern times, Miranda, because this is like the 1800s.
So at this point, dude, no, it happened back then. If freaking good old Gladys snitched on Myrtle from down the street and went to jail, like, they're coming after her, dude. So let me take a sip really quick. Ew, that's gross. So it was 3 months, right? And Billy, he just felt betrayed at this point. But he just walks right out of the jail and rides off, dude. Nobody tried to stop him. So then you flash forward to October 1879. Just a couple months later, Billy the Kid returns to his life as an outlaw, dude. He starts stealing cattle, right? 1880 comes around. Early 1880, this is January. Billy the Kid outsmarts the drunk Joe Grant when he checks out Grant's gun. He purposely puts the hammer on, and I don't know. So this part confuses me. Is like, he got the gun Yeah. So, anyway, sorry. Billy the Kid wants to check out this drunk guy's gun. His name is Joe Grant, and as Billy turns away, Grant gets like upset with him, right, and pulls the gun on Billy, only to hear it click, right, because Billy, at this point, Billy's the one who like kind of, I don't know what's the right word, outfoxed him, right? He was like being a little tricky trickster, and he like
It's like how do I
he
say
cocks
it?
the gun, but there's no bullets in it, basically, is what he does. So then this guy, Grant, he gets pissed and he like pulls the gun on Billy, only to hear that when he like pulls the trigger, nothing happens, right? So then this Grant guy's like, what the hell? And he gets mad because he's like, what the fuck? Then Billy the Kid turns around, fires 3 shots of his own into him and kills him, dude. Because Billy the Kid wanted to see, like, is this guy, is he being a sneaky sneak? And is he going to try and kill me?
That's what it was about. He was like, fuck around, find out.
That's exactly what happened. And so you do fuck around, boop, dead. Again, another murder.
that drunk guy found out real quick, dude.
Yeah, he did. He found out quick because he woke up somewhere else, So June 1880, he's in Fort Sumner. Billy the Kid.
Hold on, man. During these times, it was actually before he killed that person. It was during the same times that's when he met his wife.
Oh, okay.
Maxwell.
See, I didn't even read anything about his wife, dude. That's how I'm horrible. I just was like, murder, murder, murder. Like, that's all I went on about. Okay, where was I? June 1880. He's in Fort Sumner. Billy the Kid meets with the guy, like, doing the census stuff. Billy the Kid lies to this guy and tells him that he's 25 years old and that he was born in Missouri and that he works cattle for a living. That's his occupation. And that was all clearly a lie. So then we go, and that's important because that stuff's like, well, and like censuses are like permanent, so you can see that, that he lied about everything. So October 6th, 1880 comes around. Billy the Kid, he's tired of dodging the law, dude. He writes a letter to Ira Leonard saying that he wants to try and straighten things out with Governor Wallace. Leonard agrees to meet him in White Oaks this coming week, whatever. Unfortunately, for reasons that we don't know, the kid, Billy, he comes 6 weeks later. So by the time he shows up, like, this deal is off, right? So he shows up way too late. Typical man. Whatever. November 2nd, 1880 comes around. This is where Pat Garrett is elected to be the sheriff of Lincoln County. So this guy is an important guy. Just keep in mind. November 27th, 1880 comes around. The White Oaks posse surrounds Billy the Kid and his gang at this place called Great House Ranch. During a standoff, Deputy James Carlisle is accidentally killed by his own men, by the way. Afterwards, right, they accidentally got some friendly fire going on. Afterwards, the posse leaves the ranch.
Some Vietnam shit went down real quick. Nice.
Yeah, so they leave the ranch. Guess what they do? The outlaws escape. Who would have thought? And then they accuse, right? And then Billy the Kid is accused of killing this deputy, of course, right? So Billy the Kid, right? He was there, but he wasn't the murderer. So then Billy the Kid ends up writing Governor Wallace saying, like, I swear I'm innocent. I didn't kill Deputy Carlisle. Please, please, like, believe me. The governor does not even react to this. He's just like, whatever, dude. I've heard it too many times. So meanwhile, all these murders keep happening around Billy, right? And so at this point, it's becoming really hard for him to prove or at least even claim that he's innocent because they're like, bro, anytime you're around, bodies are dropping like flies. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean you're innocent?
It's like they were attributing every bad thing that was happening in Lincoln was
to Billy.
To Billy, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So December 14th, 1880, Pat Garrett, the new sheriff, officially begins the manhunt for Billy the Kid, right? So he actually ends up putting out a $500 reward for Billy the Kid.
Damn. 500 buckaroos, dude?
Yeah, back then, dude, that's a lot, dude.
Buy a ranch with that, bro.
I know, for real. We could have been set.
I can get married. I can stop living out in the dirt. No, I just get
right. You could do anything. December 19th, 1880. Pat Garrett gets really close to capturing Billy the Kid when they ambush him and his gang, right?
Yeah.
So this guy named Tom O'Folliard, I'm not even sure how to say it, is killed, but everyone else escapes. Who would have thought they escape again, right?
Wow.
December December 23rd, 1880. Pat Garrett tracks Billy the Kid and his gang to a house in Stinking Springs, right? When
Yes.
his close friend Charlie Boudry, I'm not sure how to say it, so I'm just going to say that, appears at the door. They think it's Billy the Kid and they open fire, but it's not Billy the Kid. It's that Charlie guy. And then they kill him. Then there's a standoff. After a couple hours, Billy the Kid and his other men end up just surrendering. So Christmas Eve, 1880, cops bring these prisoners, which is Billy and his guys, back to Fort Sumner. They also bring Charlie's body and deliver it to his wife. Billy the Kid and this guy named, I don't know what his first name is, but his last name is Rutabaugh. They're shackled together. They load up these guys in the wagon and they head for Las Vegas, New Mexico. And so Christmas Day, the posse bring the prisoners in, right? They have Christmas dinner at this store, and then they continue on their way to Las Vegas, and they travel all through the night. December 26th comes around. Sheriff Garrett and the prisoners finally get to Vegas, dude. So they get there. The town is like curious about Billy the Kid, right? But to this other guy that he's with, that Rutabaugh guy, they're like hostile towards him. Like the town is not welcoming to this other guy. They're not necessarily welcoming to Billy the Kid either, but they're like real curious about like this legend. Like that's a
I
fucking
feel like,
legend.
yeah, I feel like everyone was anywhere where Billy the Kid was like, oh wow, it's that guy, you know?
It's
It's
Billy.
it's him. It's him, bro. It's actually him.
Yep.
I heard he
So,
killed my grandpa. No, I'm just kidding.
well, they're not hostile towards him. They're not like, ooh, come to our house for dinner, but they're not like mean towards him. But this other guy, the one who he's shackled to at the time, by the way, is that Rutabaugh guy. The reason they're so mad at him is because several months earlier, this Rutabaugh guy had actually killed one of the Las Vegas County like deputies. So
Ooh.
he's a cop killer, right? So they're like, oh, fuck this guy. So then December 27th, 1880 comes around. The next morning, the sheriff, they take the prisoners to the depot. They meet a mob, actually, who are trying to come after this Rutabaugh guy. So the cops try to hold back this mob. I don't even know if you call them cops back then, but like the lawmen, whatever. They try to hold back the mob until like the prisoner train leaves to get them out of here. They then arrive in Santa Fe, New Mexico, where all these people are put back in jail. So then you go to the next year, which is just a couple of days at this point. So you got January 1st, 81. Billy the Kid writes a letter to Governor Wallace. Please come down to the jail. Come see me. But at the time, the governor's out of town, right? So he doesn't even
He
do
was like,
shit.
I'm innocent, bro. I didn't kill anyone.
He's like, I'm innocent. I literally am. I'm not the guy that you think I am. Like, I didn't kill these guys. I saw it, but I didn't kill them. So please,
He's
please,
like,
please.
I initiated the order, but it wasn't me. No,
So then, Billy the Kid. So they're still in jail, right? February 28th, 1881 comes around. So they've been in jail, 2 months. Billy the Kid and his homies want to get out of jail. So they're like, let's just dig our way out. Fuck it. Like, that's our only way. So they try to dig their way out, but they get caught. So then at this point, they separate them all. So they don't even get to hang out anymore because they get caught. And they end up taking Billy the Kid at this point and putting him in solitary. But like back then, like you look at prisons today and you're like, oh, that's so evil. But like back then it was 10 times worse because like what, you're just gonna lay on a cold dirt floor. Like they they didn't like lay concrete as well. And I don't even know if they laid it. Like, I don't know. It wasn't like this. So anyways, they actually chained him
dark
to
room,
the
bro. There was nothing in there. They just had the cells.
yeah. So they actually chained him to the floor in a dark solitary like cell by obviously solitary. So I was gonna say by himself, but that's what solitary means.
You're not escaping this time.
Yeah. So then we got March 2nd through March 27th. This is like a little storyline of that window of time. Billy the Kid continues to write Governor Wallace letters. He even threatens to like reveal what ended up happening. Like it also showed so basically he said like, I'm going to tell everyone what you did. And back then, like law enforcement working with a criminal like wasn't okay. So if he went and showed them like the governor was working with me, he's working with this gunslinging outlaw murderer, right? So I'm gonna rat you out. He still didn't respond. So on March 27th of that same year, 81, he wrote his final letter to the governor. Still ignored it, dude. Still ignored it.
Damn. He's like, I wrote you 6 letters back in autumn. You must not have got them. No, I'm just kidding.
Right? Yeah. He's like, I've been writing you. He's like, hey, baby girl, it's me. I know I wrote you 6 times last week, but please, like, how did mail even get delivered, dude?
I feel like maybe mail was the only.
Why am I
I don't know.
imagining him like writing this letter and then like giving us a pigeon a cigarette and being like, "Come on, please take this to Governor Wallace for me." Like, imagine Governor Wallace wasn't even getting these letters, dude.
They still hadn't arrived, bro. They were still in transit.
Probably. Okay, so at this point, Billy the Kid is taken to the depot again. They're gonna take him to La Mesilla for trial. So he's got to go to his trial. So the first trial was actually over killing Buckshot Roberts, that stupid fucking name that we were saying at the beginning. But that was dismissed. The second trial was for killing Sheriff Brady. He was found guilty of first-degree murder and given the death penalty for killing Sheriff Brady. Out of all the surviving killers in Lincoln County War, right? Only Billy the Kid was convicted of anything. Nobody else was convicted of shit. It was just Billy. So, like, at this point, like, they're kind of out to get him, right? So this is why people always are like, what? Billy, no! Because, like, it's kind of unfair. Like, there was all these other people involved in the murder, too, and they were just like, nah, fuck Billy, you know? So his sentence was to be carried out on March 13th. So he, at this point, was transferred to Lincoln. He was held in the courthouse until he was supposed to be hung, I don't know how to say it, hung. Before he left, he wrote a letter to attorney Edgar Capeless, I don't know how to say it, Capeles, I don't know. It's probably like Capeless, I don't know.
Paper and pencils like to write this shit, bro. Like, hey.
I don't know, like, what did he have a little...
How are they delivering these letters? Like, you just took it.
They didn't have lead pencils, did they just use a feather and some ink? Like, the fuck?
Who gave it to Billy? Like,
I mean, like, in prison, you're allowed to write letters, but, like, back in 1880, what we're like, I need another letter. Like, I don't know. Like, can you please give me a feather? I don't know why you talk like.
Trying to wrestle a pigeon off that's, like, outside the window, you're like, come here, come closer.
So, anyway, sorry. So, the letter is actually important because he writes a letter to an attorney saying that he wanted to file a lawsuit against Sheriff Garrett for confiscating his horse. Like, he loved his horse, dude. He loved his horse. Nothing ever happened. The attorney never reached out because I feel like the prison, like, wasn't sending his letters out, maybe. I don't know.
Was it them? Yeah, like, why would we?
Were they even? Like, we don't know. So then April 28th, 1881, Billy the Kid, he's waiting to be hanged at this point. It literally says hanged on the internet, so I'm pretty sure it's hanged. So he's waiting to be executed, we'll just say. But he makes his final and greatest escape from prison, bro. I'm not kidding. So
he's like, the great escape.
Dude, for real, like, this is his thing. Like, he just leaves. Prison break, dude.
You know, as he was breaking out of jail, you just heard the Gwen Stefani Great Escape song come out.
Yep. So, just wait. After he escaped legal custody, he was able to get the gun off of the guard who was, like, keeping watch on him. And after killing him, he shoots the guard that's coming from across the street to inspect the commotion. And then he hops on a horse and just bounces out of the county, dude.
So he oh my god, he pulled a fast one on them. He could have escaped at any time, right? Is what he's saying.
Basically, he was like, I'm out. And then he kills 2 guards and bounces.
So he was the original Unchained.
For real. So then July 14th, 1881, Garrett, the sheriff, visits Fort Sumner to question a friend of Billy the Kid, see where he's at. They're like, what the hell's going on? Let us know. Around midnight, Sheriff Garrett goes to this guy Maxwell's house. That's his friend. Billy the Kid was actually asleep in another part of the house, but he woke up in the middle of the night, entered Maxwell's bedroom, and who was there? Sheriff Garrett, standing in the fucking shadows. That sounds creepy, but that's it, because, like, what, they didn't have lights back then, did they? So they just have a little lantern, so he's like, blows it out, and he's just standing in the fucking shadows of the house, right?
Yeah.
Billy the Kid did not recognize him because he was standing in the shadows like a fucking creep, and that's when Billy the Kid said his famous last lines. Do you want to tell this part of the whole story?
All right. Well, let me hit you with so I remember I told you that he had a wife, right?
Yep.
Earlier. So
Mhm.
this is where it comes into perspective what you're saying. Basically that day, his wife had sent him out. He was a cattle herder, right?
Yeah.
That's what his last occupation was. You know,
Well,
his down.
that's what he put on that census that I was talking about earlier, which was technically, was it true? We don't know, but he was a cattle stealer, that's for sure.
Cattle stealing. So his wife that day had sent him out for, meat. Go to the butchery, get some meat, right?
Mhm.
The sheriff had just arrived to the house and talked to Paulita and her brother. You know, Paulita was the kid's wife. You know, she was down for him. She wasn't gonna give him away, obviously.
Yeah.
But her brother, hearing all this commotion and all this stuff, he's like, oh well, I mean, he's an outlaw. He's like, I'll tell you where he is. So he told the sheriff, he's like, oh, he just went out. He's like, stay here. He's like, he'll come back. And well, he came back obviously later. It was dark already, like you just said,
Yeah.
right? And the sheriff was waiting for him. And let's say Billy the Kid walked into the house, heard two random voices, which was the sheriff and his deputy and the brother of his wife. As soon as he walked in, he just heard him talking. He's like, ¿Quién es? And he said it again, ¿Quién es? Who is it? And as soon as he walked through the door, he was shot.
Yeah. It says after he said that Sheriff Garrett shot him twice. It said he replied, his response was shooting him twice. The first shot hit Billy the Kid in the chest, just above the heart. The second actually missed, so he only got one hit in. So at this point, when he was being questioned, even Sheriff Garrett said it was unclear if Billy was killed instantly or if it took him time to die and he suffered. Like, I don't know. Like, you would know. But so there was never a clear answer on that. And then here's where stuff gets a little tricky too, because like me and you were talking about earlier, is that everyone said he died, right? Everyone's like, oh, he's dead. So, on July 15th, 1881, which is the following day, Milner Rudolph organized a coroner's jury and makes a verdict stating that the death of Billy the Kid was a justifiable homicide. So no one's gonna get in trouble for it. It was justified. And that same afternoon, Billy the Kid was buried next to his friend Charlie Boudry and then Tom O'Folliard. I'm not sure how to say that guy's last name, but we talked about him earlier. So then he's just buried and then they just move on like none of this ever happened. But there's some theories because years later, I don't know if it's even on this website, but Rashid, I think this is him, yeah. So in 1948, this guy named Bill Roberts appears and he says, hey, I'm actually Billy the Kid. They didn't kill me. It's me. So he literally says that he just escaped and until the day he fucking died, swore that he was Billy the Kid. So he said things that, if true, would fill all these undocumented gaps in what happened to Billy the Kid. He ends up getting in contact with this guy named William Morrison, who's an investigator, right? So he gets in touch with this Morrison guy and confessed to being Billy the Kid, right? And he detailed all kinds of outlaw shit that he did. And if those were true, like I said earlier, it would fill all kinds of these gaps that we were missing because, well, we thought he was dead, right? So he asked for Morrison's help in acquiring a full pardon for Billy the Kid at this point in time. He said, I was promised by the New Mexico governor, Wallace, in 1879 that I would get a full pardon if I did this, and I want it now. That's what he freaking did! In 1948, this random dude says, I'm Billy the Kid, I want my pardon. Screw this. He showed his ability to slip out of handcuffs. He tried to prove that he was himself. He said that Pat Garrett had actually shot and killed another gunslinger named Billy Barlow and had passed his body off as Billy the Kid, which had allowed Billy the Kid to vanish and escape, and he was in Mexico. The only three witnesses to this, the killing of Billy the Kid, was Pat Garrett himself and his two deputies, which was John Poe and Thomas McKinney. While McKinney claimed to slightly know Billy the Kid, Poe had never previously ever laid eyes on him, so could it have even been him is basically what started going around. So moments after Sheriff Garrett actually shot Billy, the kid, Poe had told Garrett, like, that's not him, you shot the wrong man. But since it was too dark in the room for visuals on him, right? Garrett is like, I know who Billy the Kid is, I know his voice, that was fucking him. Ultimately though, both Poe and McKinney agreed that, okay, well, I guess Garrett did kill him. But like, McKinney actually recanted that years later and claimed that, just like Poe said, that Garrett killed someone else. So both of those witnesses came back later and were like, it wasn't him. Like, I know it wasn't him. So like, it's been disputed that, like, was he even dead? He killed someone else. So people of Fort Sumner, like all the locals, also, like, they immediately disputed the death of Billy the Kid, and they said, nah, we've seen him, like, he wasn't dead.
That's one thing, and then on another side, they were saying how, because there's a whole video on the hoax of Billy the Kid, where it's not what you think. It's literally, it starts off, like, the first lines, like, you know, was called Pat killed Billy the Kid.
Yeah.
And then it's the testimonies of his two sheriffs.
Yep.
And that line, what you said, Miranda, like, oh, you shot the wrong person, right?
Yeah.
Like, it was more like, in that moment, it was more in shock because it just happened so quick, right? You just shot him.
Yeah.
But it wasn't just them three that saw the death. There was people that came and, you know, picked up his body and prepped him for the funeral and all that, or like, you know, to bury him and stuff.
Yeah.
And those were all local people. So not just the sheriffs, you know, there was a lot of people, let's just say like 6-7 people that saw the death.
Yeah.
That saw the body dead, and then they were saying that it was him. That it was
I was looking at some of the that same thing, like you're saying, like other people saw the body, and some people were like, that wasn't even him, like it was like a black guy, it wasn't even the same guy, like it was weird. And so here's another weird thing, right? So
yeah,
the body being, so right, the next morning they have to call people in and they're like, oh, Billy's dead, boop, boop, boop. And he's buried the same day, like, you know how crazy that is? Like, if you died right now, you would be buried in like a week. You know, the coroner has to do all kinds of stuff. Like, you know, with Brandon, like, we didn't bury him the same day he died. Like, that's just not how it works.
yeah.
He was buried the same day, you know, well, the next day in the morning, they woke up, they're like, he's dead, boop, in the ground. He's by his friends, whatever. So not only was he buried the same day, but then a flood happened, like floods kept happening. And so the grave just like kind of disappeared. And so there's likely no remains in it at all, is what they're saying. And so then over the years, all these researchers and all these people have like requested to exhume the remains. They want to study Billy the Kid's bones. They want to see it. They want proof. Every request that's ever been submitted over all these years have been denied, Jesus. No one's ever gotten permission to dig up the grave. So someone's got to do it illegally if they want to look in there. But the grave actually like disappeared because of the floods and stuff. And so they do have the grave marked and stuff today, but no one's ever been able to prove that there's a body in there. And after this guy came forward, people are like, let's just dig him up. Let's find out. Nope. The law will not let them fucking dig it up, dude.
It's like one of those things where, you know, you can't, it's a gray area in our world, you know, where the government just wants to keep everything black and white. That's like the gray area. I feel like they might have done that, you know, they buried him all that quick just so, like, to know that the legend died. Like, you know, like, stop thinking about this, you know, he's dead, it's over. You know, get over it. That's what they were basically saying. Because they could have immortalized him, you know, the people were like, you know, he was a living legend, like, he helped me out, you know, shit like that. But they didn't.
Well, I have a story for you, too. I don't want to forget. So, my family, the Lovatos, they've been in New Mexico forever. Forever and ever. They were actually, like, my dad was born and raised up in, like, Holman and, like, Mora and, like, those areas. And so, back in the day.
Oh, it makes sense. No, just kidding.
Right? That makes sense, right?
Everything clicked now, Miranda. No, just kidding.
So, my dad is, like, he's a little older. He's 72, 73-ish. But so, my grandparents, like, his dad, my grandpa Alex, he was, like, 94, you know, when he died. And that was in 2016. So, my grandparents have always been older. So, my grandpa's dad, Encarnacion Lovato was his name, he lived up in Holman with his wife. They lived up there forever. And they were actually like raised sheep. And so he was like a shepherd basically, right? He was like a sheep herder guy. That's what he did for a living. And so he like
He
sold
thought he
his
was
sheep.
with God, bro. He's like,
Well,
I'm the shepherd. No, I'm just kidding.
he raised sheep and like sold their wool, sold their meat, you know, he did that kind of stuff. Like that's how he made his living. So, and he had a ton of sheep, and they had like a pretty big piece of land for like being back then, right? And they were poor, like they didn't have money by any means. The Lovatos have never had money, they've never been rich. So he
They
said,
never will be. No, I'm just
and
kidding.
he swore until the day he died, this story, and it's been passed on from my great grandpa to my grandpa to my dad to me, right? So it hasn't been that many generations either, so it's not like it's been 12 generations later, they say. Like it's literally recent. Like my great grandpa did this. Like I knew my grandpa. Like it's crazy, right? Anyways, so he had all his sheep, you know, like loose, just frolicking around to eat. And so at night when he had his sheep loose, he would go up in the mountains and like start a fire, and he would camp out with them, especially if he was trying to like herd them down closer or, you know, farther up the mountain or whatever. So he said that one of the nights he was all by himself out there, of course, so there's no witness to the story, but he was out there by himself, and he said he went up in the mountains. It was in Holman, New Mexico, and he had his horses, because he had like a couple horses too, and he had ridden one of the horses up there. The others just came with because they were all, you know, like free range but trained. And he had the sheep out there and all that. So he said he had his fire, he had his one horse that he was riding, like all suited up for it. And he was camping, making some food. And then in the morning he was gonna bring the rest of like the herd down. And he said that like there was a ton of guys out in like the woods, and they rode up and they asked him like, hey, do you mind if we get a bite to eat and like sit at the fire? And my grandpa was nice, so he was like, yeah, I've got some extra food and whatever, and he fed this group of dudes that was just up there. And he said that one of them was Billy the Kid, and he introduced himself, and he said he was super nice. He said he was super fucking cool, but he obviously didn't say that. He said he was very nice, and that he said he got his guitar out, that he had a guitar, and that he played guitar, and he said that he sang in Spanish, and he said he like spoke better Spanish than anyone that he had ever met, including like the fluent Spanish speakers in New Mexico. He said he spoke like the perfect kind of Spanish, and that he sang for them, and they all ate together and they had a good time, and then they all went to sleep. And my grandpa said when he woke up that all the horses were gone. They had taken all the horses, and like it ruined my grandpa's life because they didn't have money, and he worked his whole life for those horses and his farm, and they took them all. And he never heard or saw anything again.
He was like, I'll never financially recover from this.
That's exactly what happened, dude. He was like, God damn it, you're nice one time. Oh,
and the
man.
worst part is that the guy was nice to him too. He was like, this guy, he won his heart.
He
won his heart, but broke his heart.
He did. He said he was so nice, and he said that like he played guitar, and he didn't say he was the best singer, but he said his Spanish was like unlike any Spanish he's ever heard. Which is crazy. He said, like, it's just some white guy, right? And his Spanish was, like, perfect. And I didn't even think about him speaking Spanish until you see his last words, you know, and, like, what he's saying. And, then for my great-grandpa to say that, and, like, it's been passed down through the family. Who knows if it's true? My dad said, like, obviously we weren't there, so we don't know, but we're gonna keep telling the story, and we're gonna stick with it because...
Keep it original. Nice.
Yeah. So I called him before we started recording just to, like, make him tell the story again so I could write it down and make sure that I wasn't like, my grandpa said. Yeah. But crazy shit, dude. That's some crazy shit. What do you think? Do you think?
Hold up, Miranda. Now let me ask you this. Do you think, okay, so now you told your story about Billy the Kid, you know, and we've heard everything that we've heard. You think he was a good guy or a bad guy?
I think he had some good in him, but I don't think he was a good guy. You know, I think that he was really young, and I feel like he probably thought that he was doing right by himself or something, but I think he did a lot of bad things. Like, I'm not gonna say that all of his murders were, like, justified or anything, but I can see, like, in today's day, if you just go out and kill a cop because they stole your horse, obviously that's not okay. But, like, hundreds of years ago, if you think about it, like, that's all you had. Like, if I had a brand new Supra in my driveway, and the neighbor came and stole it and just, like, was keeping it from me and then killed my husband, like, I would probably shoot him. I don't, like, you know, what do you have to live for after that? He takes all your stuff.
Like, it's like Miranda, it's like, shoot him, I keep the super. No, I'm just kidding.
Right, keep it super. Well, like, you think about it too. I'm not trying to compare the 1800s to the apocalypse, but like, think about it. If we didn't have the houses and the electricity and like all the crazy, like, we know we're recording on Skype, I have a fucking webcam, we have cell phones, we have all this stuff. We didn't have all this. We had to communicate by riding our horses to see each other. And like, we were out in the Wild West and there was just like hundreds of miles of desert and in between us with outlaws stopping you and robbing you along the way. Like, it doesn't sound so crazy when you think of it in those times to be like, hey, I'm going to murder this guy because he came in and he killed my only form of a dad that I had and the only guy who ever saved me. I'm going to get my revenge. And then you also think like he wasn't like a 40-year-old man. This is a 15-year-old kid who starts this. And then the only form of money he could make was literally stealing cattle, right? Horses and stuff.
Yeah.
And so, like, if you think of it from a kid's perspective, like, he probably was doing what he thought was best and, like, raging off some testosterone of being angry because his father figure was killed. But once it continues and continues and continues, and then maybe he's not so good. Like, murder's bad. I'm not saying murder's good. But I can see how hundreds of years ago he could have justified what he was doing, especially as a teenager and thinking he was doing right. But, you know, it really didn't.
His own moral justice or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, this is what's right.
Because they try to make him out to be like, when people are like, Billy the Kid was a murderer, they try to make it seem like he was a fucking Ted Bundy, you know, like out roofing and bringing in young girls and like raping them and killing them. Like, that's not what he was doing. I mean, he's still a murderer, but I don't think he's the most horrific murderer and evil man of all time like people try to make him out to be. Like, I don't think that. I don't think he's a hero or a good man by any means. Like, he did bad things, but what do you think?
And it's more like, it's one of those things where, it's like for me, it was more related like off of a cartoon.
Mm-hmm.
Like where you're looking at the bad guy and then the bad guy at the end is telling you like his side of the story and how he got to be. And then you get to think, you're like, you know, this guy has, you know, he's making sense, right? And you're like,
yeah.
You're like, is it okay to kill someone, right? But no, then you get to like your moral stuff. You're like,
yeah.
you know, killing anyone is obviously bad.
Yeah.
You don't have there's no justifiable reason to kill someone unless they killed, you know, they killed like your family member or something, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Like, if right now the world was like it was back then, if I was in my home right now with these same people and someone broke in and killed them all and then I was the only one left and I had the opportunity to murder the murderer, I might, like, I don't know. You never know what you do, especially if I was 15 and my hormones were going crazy. Like, imagine. Like, that's the other thing that people don't keep in mind is that he was a kid. His dad died. They moved him all over the place. The only thing he ever knew was a life of poverty and a life of crime. He got an opportunity to make some money, and especially being a teenager, he took it. And then murder happened. But you know how many people probably murdered just as many, if not more, people than Billy the Kid? Like, yeah. That's the crazy part about back then, is like, he's just known about, but I feel like everyone was doing that. Like, imagine I'm sure Sheriff Brady and Sheriff freaking Garrett probably killed way more people by the end of their careers than Billy the Kid killed in his lifetime of only he was 21 when he got killed?
Yeah, 21, and technically they only recorded 10, 11 deaths at most.
Yeah. Well, so, I read something that said like 20 deaths or 21 or something, but like what I just recounted.
That's the thing, Miranda. That's like the rumor. Like, you know, he killed 21 people by the age of 21, but that wasn't the case. Like, he died at 21.
Yeah, so. They act like he was 1 year old out there with the fucking knife.
Right? Straight out the womb, he was over there with a knife.
Yeah, that's what they act like, but I don't know. So it is definitely a hard one because I don't, you know, like you said, like we can't justify a murderer, but I also don't think he was the most evil and shocking, like,
it makes it sound like
person,
right? Like if he was a Robin Hood type of character.
Yeah, that's like, it's weird, very weird.
Yeehaw, brother.